Hello, Peko Virtual School English Language by Madam Nanyombi Gloria. This English language is majorly going to focus on Senior 1. Senior 1, the category that is covering the new curriculum. Category that is covering the new curriculum. We can start off with a simple introduction here. And here we are saying this package is designed specifically for the Senior 1 class, which is covering the new curriculum. That is the revised lower secondary curriculum, like I've just said, the new curriculum. We are saying the curriculum is majorly competence-based, meaning it is learner-centered. Here, what we mean by learner-centered, the learner is more involved in the learning process. Before, it was more of knowledge-based. The curriculum was more of knowledge-based, meaning the teacher could gather information and provide to the students. But with this new curriculum, the students do most of the work. They research, they are more involved, while the teacher majorly guides them here and there. It is aimed at imparting learners with skills, values, and knowledge. In this English curriculum, we vividly involve the 4 language skills that are listening, speaking, reading, and writing in the learning process. We normally incorporate this during the learning process, and we shall see that as we are teaching, like we are going to see, because it is very important as far as English is concerned, because when we talk about communication skills, they are very, very important, and these have to keep maturing as the student matures, they develop. So they are very important for the student when it comes to English. It is also examinable. The topics being taught focus on the day-to-day aspects, all the problems being faced in the society, and how to solve them. Like I already explained, the new curriculum is not what we used to have before. Before, we focused on grammar aspects, comprehension, summary writing, but the topics that we are going to look at in English, look at what is happening in society today. That's why we said they are majorly going to impart learners with skills, values, and knowledge on how to handle life in our day-to-day life or in the society. Okay. So we are starting off with English Senior 1, Week 1. Our topic is going to be finding information. When someone talks about finding information, they will wonder, what do you mean by finding information? Okay, let us see what the introduction says in this topic. Under the topic finding information, you will learn how to carry out a survey and use the different sources of information to communicate your findings in written form. You will learn how to use the comparative and superlative forms of the English language while communicating your findings. Some of the aspects that have been mentioned in the topic in the introduction, we may not look at them immediately, but we know in the near future they are going to come up as per what is being discussed in this topic, finding information. But when we talk about finding information, we are looking at things to do with research. If you are, for example, given research, where do you go to get information about a particular topic, about a particular assignment? Okay, where do you go if you need information about a particular aspect? That's why you see we've started off with such an introduction, which is saying you will learn how to carry out a survey, use different sources of information to communicate your findings in written form, and very many others like we are going to realize. Like I told you in the beginning, we incorporate the skills of English in our activities. We said we have listening, writing, reading, and speaking. In the activities that we normally look at, number one, we've started off with listen and write. And some of the activities that we are going to do, or the activities like you're going to witness, are reflecting those 4 language skills. We are going to focus on listening. Okay, so below here we are saying, below we are going to test our listening skill. We could ask ourselves some few questions below. Do not forget, the skill we are focusing on now is listening. This is something that is very important, but very many times it is taken for granted. Listening is one skill that anyone should have. It is one skill that everybody, it is one communication skill that everyone should learn, because it helps us a lot, like we shall see. And we've said we could ask ourselves some few questions below. Number one, what is listening? When someone asks you, what is your understanding of the word listening, what comes to your mind? Number two, why is listening very important? Why do you think you need to listen and you speak less? That is also something you should also understand when it comes to the listening skill. The other question we should ask ourselves, what is the difference between listening and hearing? I don't know if people have taken time to pay close attention to the difference. Do they understand what we mean by listening and then hearing? Okay, we are going to see that. And here we are saying, to answer these 3 questions will take us to the reason why listening as a skill is very important. Number 1, please pay close attention. Listening refers to giving or paying attention to the person speaking in order to hear him or her and understand what they are saying. I said we are answering the 3 questions I posed, members. Now the answers are here. Pay close attention. Number 1 says, listening refers to giving or paying attention to the person speaking in order to hear him or her and understand what they are saying. With listening, you pay close attention. You keep eye contact. You do not interrupt the person as they are speaking. You give them audience. That is what we mean by paying attention. When this person is speaking, you hear them. Remember, as you're listening, you are hearing what the other person is saying. And when you hear, you try to understand what they are saying. I hope, members, I'm very clear with what we mean by listening. Okay? Now, why do you think it is important to listen? I came up with a few reasons why it is very important for us to listen. Like I said, listening involves paying attention to someone and giving consideration to whatever they are saying. This involves you paying close attention, maintaining eye contact, and not interrupting them as they speak. That is what we mean by listening. Then we are saying, what are some of the importances of listening? And here we've said, some of the importances of listening include: 1, it helps us to comprehend or understand what is being communicated and respond accordingly. Okay? For you to understand what someone is saying, you need to listen. You do not interrupt them. You wait for them to speak. They finish, and then you can come in. Very many times people listen, but they're in a hurry to respond, okay, without actually understanding what the other person was speaking. So it is very important to listen, because when you listen to the person without interrupting them as they speak, you are able to understand what they are communicating, and then you respond accordingly. Okay? We've also said people who listen well tend to work better in a team-based environment. When we talk about a team-based environment, it means you're working with more than 2 or more people. This requires the fact that All the different people may have to bring in their different arguments or points. Are you going to keep interrupting them as they are talking? You will have to listen to all of them, okay? So when you listen very well, you will know how to work with this person. You will know what this one wants, what the other one does not want. You will be able to work better with a team-based environment because you give attention to the different people as they are speaking. I hope we are very clear when we come to importance of listening, and I hope I'm making sense there. We are also saying it also shows that you are interested in a person speaking or in the person speaking and what they are saying, which builds good relationships. It is always very bad to, especially when you're having a conversation, you're talking to someone or you're listening to someone, but you're not paying attention. Someone is speaking to you, you're busy on your phone. Does that show you're interested in what someone is saying? I don't think so. But listening requires eye contact, requires keeping quiet and paying close attention to the person speaking. This person feels very motivated as they are talking to you. Maybe they are trying to convince you to help them with something. They will be motivated because you've showed interest in the person speaking, which will also help to build a very good relationship. I think you can see some of the reasons why it is very important to listen. The third question was saying, what is the difference between listening and hearing? What is the difference between listening and hearing? Members, let us closely pay attention to that. Pay close attention. The difference between listening and hearing is that hearing is simply the act of perceiving sound by the ear without necessarily paying attention to what is happening. I hope I'm very clear there. Hearing is simply the act of perceiving sound by the ear without necessarily paying attention. You don't pay attention to what is happening, okay? While listening requires paying attention and giving thought and consideration to what is being communicated. You're more interested. What is this person talking about? What can I learn from what they are saying? How can I be of help as per what they've said? Okay? With hearing, you don't have to even understand what someone is saying. It could be just a loud bang. Did I just hear someone shout? You can't say, did I just listen to someone shout? Listening is more than that. Hearing, just a loud bang. You turn. Did that saucepan just fall? Do you really have to pay a lot of attention? No, you don't. You just hear the noise and you look there. But listening, we are saying you pay attention, you give thought and consideration to what is being said or communicated. I hope people realize now the difference between listening and hearing. So you choose if it is a life skill, which is more important, listening or hearing. Okay, I hope we are clear there. Now we are going to look at the different situations, okay, where we see that someone is just hearing and where we see that someone is listening. Okay, when do we realize that here there is a situation of just hearing what is happening, and when do we see? I want people to vividly see, when do we listen and when do we hear? Examples of situations when you just hear. When someone calls you by your name, for example, they say Paula, you just look there because you had someone call you. Okay, do you really have to listen so much? Someone says Paula, immediately you say yes. Were you saying something? Okay, you just heard. Then after saying, did you just call my name? That's when you will be required to listen to whatever they have to say. But when someone calls you by your name, you hear them. You hear someone call your name. Another situation when we just hear, when someone requests or orders you to do something. I said go to the staff room, you walk immediately. I said pick that cup, okay, you pick it because you've heard what someone just said. There is no need to understand a lot because there is no explanation. It is an order. Please pick that cup. Okay, the third situation, I'm just giving a few examples here when you just hear. when you realize a loud noise and you turn your head to see where it is coming from. I just talked about the situation. Say for example, a glass falls from the table and it breaks. Okay, you would look there because you had a loud noise. Are you getting that? When you realize a loud noise, you just had something fall. You don't need to pay a lot of attention as per listening. Listening requires you to understand what is going on. But when something falls, you just look there to see, oh, what just fell? You had something falling. That is for hearing. We've talked about when someone calls you by your name. When someone requests you or orders you to do something, pick that cup. Is there any listening required? I just told you to do something. You heard what I said. Pick that cup. Okay? When you hear a loud noise, it could be thunder. You will tell people, you people, I just heard thunder outside. Okay? Now let us look at situations where you have to listen. What are some of the examples of situations that require you to listen? When being given direction of a place that you are not aware of, it really requires you to listen, because it will involve a lot of directions. When you turn to the left, go to the other junction. When you reach that junction, you will find a red house. After that red house, it requires you to understand, comprehend, and then try to remember. Okay? So this means you are trying to listen because you need to understand. Okay? So number one, we've said when being given direction of a place that you are not aware of, that requires you to listen because you will need to pay attention. Then you will need to understand the different places, which you will have to remember as you are going to those different areas that have been told to you. Okay, so when we talk about listening, it requires more than hearing. Okay, number two, when someone is narrating a story, when someone is actually narrating a story, you really have to listen because you want to know, where did the story start from? What is the climax of the story? Okay, otherwise, if someone is speaking and you're not listening, say especially when they are narrating a story and you don't pay close attention, you may not understand what the story is about. So when someone is narrating a story, it is very important that you listen, okay, for better understanding. 3, we've also said examples of situations that require you to listen during conversations with friends, with peers. Today, very many people lack the communication skill of listening, because very many times when they are having a conversation with a friend, they are in a hurry to speak. But the reason why they are speaking to respond, not to understand. Someone has not finished speaking, but you're in a hurry to bring in your argument. Have you first understood what they are speaking? So during conversations, it is very important for you to pay close attention to what the other person is speaking before you can interrupt them as they are speaking. Okay, so I hope you realize the difference between someone hearing and the difference between hearing and listening. When you are having a conversation, it is always very important to listen to your friends, but sometimes when your friends are speaking, you are in such a hurry to speak, not because you've understood, but because you want to bring in your argument. Say maybe you may not forget it very fast, and yet sometimes you've not actually understood what the other person is speaking. I hope I am very clear with that. Listening, therefore, is one of the important skills needed of communication. The ability to listen and understand takes practice. Therefore, we are going to do a task to test our listening skill. We are going to do a task. I'm so sure everyone has been listening, and I am so sure they've understood the difference between listening and hearing. We've said listening requires paying attention and keeping quiet to calmly listen to what someone is saying and then trying to get something out of what they are saying. Okay, so here we are going to do a task to test our listening skill. Task 1, your teacher is going to read us a short passage to you. Listen carefully to it and answer the questions below. I hope everyone is listening. Now I am going to read this once, but in case you need to hear it out the second time, you will just rewind it. I'm so sure you will be able to listen carefully and answer the questions below. I'm so sure this is quite new to some people. Normally what you know about passages, you're reading it from somewhere. You're reading it from somewhere, then getting answers. Now here you are just going to listen. We've said we are testing the listening what? Skill. So here is our passage. I hope everyone is listening. Members, here is our passage. I hope everyone is listening. There are different sources of information. Each of these sources presents information in different ways. Some of these sources are reference books, dictionaries, textbooks, atlases, maps, newspapers, magazines, radios, television, the internet, newsletters, and many others. We need information to know about the things around us. If we are to excel in whatever we do, we need information. At school, much of the information we need is found in the textbooks and in the reference books, which are found in the library. We access information by reading and listening to those who have read it, like our teachers. Information makes us knowledgeable. Without knowledge, we are as good as dead, because knowledge is power. So that is our little passage. Just in case you've not heard it, you'll just have to rewind it. But that is our passage there. And you will be answering the following questions like you will see them. Okay, the questions are saying, why is it said that knowledge is power? Which are the different sources of information mentioned in the passage? What is the newsletter? Why do we need information? How do we access information? All these, for a good person who has been listening attentively, they will be able to answer those questions, and I will be glad to see those fellows or those members who have been able to listen and answer those questions accordingly. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, week two, we are still looking at the same topic. Remember, I told you here we keep looking at the different skills. First, we were focusing on the listening skill. We are still looking at the same topic, but under the same topic, we try to develop different skills. Here we are looking at writing and reading. Before we focused on listening. Okay, so now we are going to look at the sources of information. It is something that is coming up. It keeps coming up. If we had it in the first work, now even in our second week, it is coming up. Don't forget, our topic is finding information. The activity we are going to focus on here is writing and reading. I hope you can see that the language skills keep reflecting here and there. First it was the listening, Now we are going to focus on the writing and reading. So we are going to look at sources of information. When we talk about sources of information, what comes to your mind? What is your understanding when we talk about sources of information? So here we are saying it is always important to have knowledge about the different sources of information in case you need to do research or carry out a survey. So when we talk about sources of information, we are going to see aspects to do with research. How often do people carry out research? Or you are the kind who will just look at your friend's work and then you copy without making some effort to carry out your own research. It is a beautiful thing to do research because at least you have first-hand information. The moment you do research, you are confident in what you have done and you normally have first-hand information. So when we talk about sources of information, we are going to talk about things to do with doing research, doing an assignment left by a teacher, and then carrying out a survey. Any idea of anyone who has done a survey before? We shall see that as we continue with our topic under finding information. Okay, so here we are posing a question. We are posing a question and we are saying, what are the different sources of information that you would use when carrying out research? What are the different sources of information that you would use when carrying out research? People used to think that research is for only the scientists, the environmentalists, but even in senior 1, you need to start carrying out serious research. As long as you know where you can always get this information, you can always carry out research. Okay, so the question is saying, what are the different sources of information that you use when carrying out research? What are the different sources of information that you would use when carrying out research? Let's brainstorm. Let's brainstorm and give examples of different sources of information that we would use in case we had some research to do. Let's brainstorm and give examples of different sources of information that we would use in case we had some research to do. Okay, so here we have different examples. Here we've talked about reference books. When we talk about reference books, I hope everyone understands what a reference book is. Reference means if I am going to use a dictionary to find another word, where can I get the same word? Where can I get the meaning of the same word? I could use an encyclopedia, for example. If I am not convinced with the word in the dictionary, I will have to get out an encyclopedia. If the encyclopedia is not enough, I will get out a thesaurus. Okay, when we talk about reference books, we are looking at the different books. It could even be the Bible. Someone will say, I think I should use the Good News Bible. The other person will say, let us get the James Version. Okay, those are more of reference books, the different books that are giving information on a particular topic. Okay, that is what we mean by reference books. Different books but having the same information about a particular aspect. I've given you an example. It could be a word. You get a Macmillan dictionary, you get a Longman dictionary, you get a Cambridge dictionary. All those are different reference books. When you're not very confused, you will have to get your encyclopedia, because you know it will be able to give you some information there. Okay, so another example of a source of information, we also have magazines. Okay, Here people have seen very many different magazines, those that have to do with health, those that have to do with education, those that talk about a school, those that have to do with wealth, love, relationships. All those are sources of information. We also have the internet. When we talk about the internet, everyone knows that with the internet, anything you need, you will always get it. Whatever information you need, you will always get it, because it has a lot of information, okay, and in all the different languages. Okay, so when we talk about the internet, it is one of the most powerful sources of information, because it will give you a wide range of information on whatever you may talk about and in whichever language you want to. Then we have newspapers. Newspapers happen on a daily basis. They have articles. They give information on the different topics on a daily basis. So they are also another good source of information. We've talked about the dictionaries. Whichever word, even one which you've almost forged, you will find it there. You will find it there in the dictionary. So a dictionary is another important source of information. We go to the maps. When you get a map, someone will tell you, I am well traveled. They've never even taken a single flight, but they will tell you, they will go to a certain country, they will tell you this is the capital city of that country. Around this time, it is always summer. This time it is winter. Okay. Then they go to the other one. When you go to this place, there is a lot of mining taking place. All that information is found in maps. So we also know that maps are a great source of information there. Okay, I've given you just a few examples, because what we really want is for you to know, in case you're given an assignment to look up something in particular. Where do you go? If you need a new word, do I have to go to the newspaper? Can I get a new word from a newspaper? Definitely it is a dictionary, an encyclopedia. Okay, if it is an alternative to this word, the thesaurus will do that, because the thesaurus majorly looks at synonyms of particular words. So when we talk about sources of information, your role is to always know, if I need this, where do I go? Okay? You've been to the library. Do you even know what a thesaurus does? Now is the time. Okay, do you know what an encyclopedia does? Now is the time to know those different sources of information and what they do. Okay, it is always important to have knowledge on where to get particular information on a particular topic or assignment asked. I repeat, it is always important to have knowledge on where to get particular information on a particular topic or assignment asked, So here we're majorly focusing on different sources of information. If you needed information on a particular aspect, say you're going to have a debate and you have a very important topic you're going to look at, do you just go running around asking everyone? Can't you go somewhere and you get that information yourself? Are you getting that? So no, in case you have a topic to look out for, where do I go? Is it the magazine? If you're going to talk about corruption, which article, in which newspaper can I get enough information on, say, a certain corrupt individual we've talked about? If it is in the government, you will be able to know that in the newspaper of 2019, on such and such a day, such information was brought out on a certain topic of a person who got involved in corruption. At least you always know where to get particular information. When we talk about sources of information, this particular aspect here is looking at where to find particular information on, say, a particular topic that you're doing research about. So below we are going to do a few tasks, just 2 tasks that are very simple, but they are very helpful. Number 1, for you to understand them. What are they? What do they do? So that the next time you need to find out about something, you know exactly where to go. Okay? Task 1 says, below is an information box with the following words. There we have our information box. Very beautiful. And in that information box, we have our words there. Reference books, magazines, periodicals, journals, encyclopedia, dictionary, thesaurus, newspapers, the internet, maps, charts. Okay, we have those examples there that we've given, and your first task is going to be find out the meanings of the different words as written in the information box above. What are the meanings of those different words? You could be there wondering, what is a periodical? What is a chart? Take your time, find out their meanings, and then you will know. Why would someone have to go to a chart to find information? What is the importance of a periodical? What about a journal? When they talk about a journal, what is your understanding of a journal? What is the difference between an encyclopedia and a thesaurus? Now that is why I want you to find out the meanings of these different words as they are written in the information box above, so that tomorrow when you need information you will know, oh, this word is not clear in the dictionary, I think I can visit the encyclopedia. If it is still not very clear in the encyclopedia, you run very fast to the thesaurus. It can still give you information. Okay, you will also try to understand what a journal is, so all those can always be sources of information at the end of the day, where you don't have to over scratch your head or to run bothering people that where do I get information on a particular topic. When you understand what these words mean, you will not need to disturb people or to bother people sometimes. That is your first task. It is very simple, but it is beautiful, because at the end of the day it will make you happy that you don't have to hustle or to fight so hard to know where to get particular information. Our second task is also very important. It says, task 2, write which material you would use, or write which materials you would use to look for the following information. The life of Jesus. In case you needed information about the life of Jesus, where do you go? Where do you go just in case you need information about the life of Jesus? The meaning of a new word. If you've come across a new word, where do you go in case you need one? Where do you get information on the latest fashions? Where would you go if you needed information on the news for the day? What is happening elsewhere in the world? In case you needed information what is happening elsewhere in the world, where do you go to find that information? The capital cities of the countries in the world. Do you have to ask someone? Don't you think you're going to bother people a lot? Where do you go in case you need information on the capital cities of the countries in the world? Then we also have the weather in a different city. Okay, that is your assignment, and I'll be very glad if people answer the 2 tasks thoroughly well like I expect them. Thank you very much. That marks the end of our work. Have a great day. May God bless you.